In this video, I'm going to show you the exact content marketing strategy that I use to get more clients and customers, make more sales, and grow my online business. You ready? Let's do this. Hi friends, my name is Jim. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be talking to you today about my content marketing strategy. Building an online business is a daunting task, and when you're just getting started, it can be even harder. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you already know that I'm going through right now a bit of a change in the direction of my channel and my online business. Since the pandemic started back in March of 2020, I've been making a concerted effort to move my business from a brick and mortar law practice to taking all of my businesses 100% online. And this you can see because several months ago I was still doing videos in my physical office. Now I'm doing videos in our spare bedroom upstairs. And I made this decision for a number of reasons. The first one was that obviously COVID forced us all to start working from home, and that happened, and I liked it, and I wanted to keep doing it that way. Once I realized that I could run my law practice from a laptop with my pajamas, I started thinking, well, maybe I could start some other businesses and run them that way too. Because as I've said numerous times before, what I'm looking for, what I'm striving for with my business is the ultimate freedom to work when I want, where I want, and how I want. That's what we're all looking for here. But there was still one big problem here, and this has to do with the content marketing strategy that I'm about to lay out for you. And that's that transitioning from a brick and mortar family law firm serving clients in Wake County, North Carolina. That's a very specific niche. Transitioning from that to a nationwide law firm that served clients across the country in helping them to draft contracts, form LLCs, protect their intellectual property with trademarks. That's a major shift. And when you've been doing content marketing for a number of years towards a certain demographic, and now you start doing something else, there can be problems that crop up. So not only did I have to start repelling the family law clients, I had to start working towards attracting the corporate, small business, online entrepreneur type clients that I was looking for. Now, I'm not gonna lie, once you go down this road of starting to transition your brand, it's really hard to go back. And it's not only because, number one, I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back to the old way of practicing law that I've been doing for the last 12 or 15 years. But in addition, if you start flipping flopping and going back and forth between talking to one target customer and then talking to another target customer, you're going to start to confuse everyone, and in so doing, you're going to repel all your customers. So I had to sit down and really evaluate what was my content marketing strategy going to be for this new way of doing business in a post-COVID world. Now, I think it's important to point out that in my mind, number one, I've built all my businesses using a content marketing strategy. That's always been my fundamental base way to grow my business whenever I've started a new business. And the reason why that's always been my preferred way of building a business is because if done right, if you have the right content marketing strategy in place, you're going to build a loyal following of clients and customers and prospects who are literally begging you to work with them. And that's why every single business, whether it be when I first started my law firm in Florida back in 2005 to when I moved to North Carolina and restarted my law firm here in 2010, to when I started this YouTube channel and started Hawthorn Law in 2016. The basic premise of every single one of those businesses has been to create content that is helpful, useful, and free for people to consume. So what exactly is content marketing, and how can you use it to build your business? According to the Content Marketing Institute, content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. So what does that exactly mean? Before we get to that, I need a quick sip of Joe. Back to the cute kid mug today. Gotta have your coffee. So where were we? Okay, so, well, in my mind, what that definition means in a nutshell is that you're going to be creating targeted, high quality, valuable content for free that is directed towards a specific target customer, and the goal of that content is to help predispose that customer or client to do business with you. Before we go any further, that all sounds well and good, but I want you to understand that content marketing is not as easy as just putting up some free content on the web and hoping people will come flocking to your door. It is a long-term marketing strategy. You can't just, post and ghost. You have to produce relevant, high-quality content and deliver it to your target audience on a consistent and reliable basis. So if you're watching this video and you're thinking, well, that's great, how can I use a content marketing strategy to generate some immediate cash for my business? Well, chances are you probably can't. You're going to need to layer on a paid marketing strategy if that's what you're looking to do. That's kind of outside the scope of today's video. I'll do another video on that here in the coming weeks. So let's talk about how does a content marketing strategy work in practice? Well, back when I first started my law practice in Florida, I basically sat down and wrote out a list of questions that I thought my clients might ask me during an initial consultation. And after I finished doing that, I went to my email and looked to see what questions my clients actually were asking me when they were sending me email inquiries. And when I ran out of ideas there, I went to the legal statutes and the case law and kind of wrote out a list of topics that I thought might be relevant and helpful to my target audience. And then, next step was pretty easy. I started writing, and I wrote a lot, an awful lot. Not only that, I wrote consistently. Back then, we were in the very early stages of blogging. I still remember sitting in our bedroom one night talking to my wife and mentioning her I was going to do this blogging thing, and she was like, what is that? Like, that's how long ago this was. So I actually had to go out to Borders. Anyone remember Borders? That used to be like my favorite bookstore. I loved hanging out at Borders. Anyway, I bought a book at Borders. I think it was Blogging for Dummies, to teach me how to set up a blog online. Remember the days when you actually used books to figure this stuff out as opposed to Googling and looking at YouTube videos? Yeah, wasn't that long ago. So I started blogging, and I did that on a pretty consistent basis. But from there, I actually took a bunch of my best blog posts and most informative content, and I kind of packaged them together into a 30-page ebook that became the basis of my content marketing basically from then on out. Every time I did a post anywhere, every time I would say like did something on Instagram or Facebook, but they really weren't there at the time. But anytime I wrote something and put it online, I basically always included a link back to get a copy of my free divorce guide, is what I called it. And then I would get people on my email list and I would market to them from there. Again, I'm digressing. That's another story for another day and another video. And actually later on, 4 or 5 years later, when we moved to North Carolina, I actually took that a step further and I wrote an actual physical book. Yeah, check that out. That's like legit, right? See, look at that guy right there. Content marketing. So what I did with this is I actually took this book and I handed it out to, I took all of my referral sources to lunch and I handed this book out to everybody that could potentially refer me cases. And I still, to this day, get calls from people because they got my book from someone. You know, one of these days I would love to be able to finish one of these videos without being interrupted by a garbage truck or a leaf blower or an Amazon delivery guy or just a dog barking. Is that really too much to ask? Now, the best part about this and the blog posts and everything else with content marketing is it's basically mostly, kinda, free? Well, not really, but we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Now again, rewind back to when I first started my law practice. Again, this is about 15 to 17 years ago. I was the only lawyer in town who was doing this. Back then, what most lawyers were doing to get cases was basically spending thousands of dollars a year on Yellow Pages ads. Remember those? Or lead generation strategies where they were paying other companies to send them leads, because they didn't have a website that could actually generate their own leads. But by generating consistently valuable content and putting it on my own website, I not only was becoming an extremely valuable resource for potential clients, but I was also helping my website gain traction in the search engines and just organically rise to the top of the search results for Google. Pretty cool, huh? I think so. Now, But there is a drawback with content marketing. Remember I said just a minute ago that it was kind of almost free, but not quite? The drawback is that a content marketing strategy takes time. It takes a lot of time. And when you're trying to build revenue and bring on customers and clients, time is money. So you've got a couple choices. You're either gonna spend a lot of time on your own building a database of content that you're putting out into the world and doing that yourself, or you're gonna hire somebody else to either ghostwrite for you, manage your social media, and do all those things for you. I was quite literally the only lawyer who was using this strategy. So I really have to give a shout out to Seth Godin, because he is a master marketer and he wrote some of the most foundational books for me back when I was first getting started. I came across that he had written. And one of the first books that I found that he wrote was called Permission Marketing. And I wish I had it. I don't have a copy of it. It must be packed away in one of my boxes here, but that was one of the first books I read that really taught me about content-based marketing and how it would work and how I could use it to attract clients to my law practice. But then there were a couple other books that I'm going to talk about in a future video because I have to, honestly. One was Purple Cow, a great book that you have to read, and the other one was called The Dip that I still go back and read. It's 80 pages. You can read this thing in less than an hour. Those two books really changed everything for me in terms of how I built and operated my law practice. So Permission Marketing taught me how to create content that my consumers and target audience would consume and then want to do business with me. Purple Cow was the one that gave me permission to do it differently than all the other lawyers were doing back then and really build a tremendous law practice as a result. And then The Dip is the one that taught me that you're going to go through tough times, but if you make it through that dip, it's better on the other side. I remember at one point I actually met with a lawyer from another firm talking about merging our practices, and I explained to him that I was giving away all my content for free to prospective clients, and he thought I was absolutely batshit crazy. My point of this is that back then, content marketing was easy. There was really only one platform to share the content, and that was your website. Most lawyers were not posting to their websites. So if you spent an hour or so a day writing content in a blog and posting it on your website, you were beating 99% of the other lawyers in the area. And that's what I did. That's all I did. That was my marketing strategy. That and taking a lot of referral sources to lunch. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. In 2022, you have to employ a completely different content marketing strategy. To be successful today, you have to be pumping out content on a regular basis, every day, almost every hour. You have to be pumping something out there that people can find and consume so that they can get to know you. And not only that, you can't just repurpose content from one platform to another. You have to make that content unique to the platform you're posting it on. That means you have to be posting blog articles on your website. You have to be posting long form content and videos on Facebook. Meta, sorry. You have to post quote cards and images and things like that on Instagram. You have to post videos on YouTube. You have to create audio content that you can post on a podcast that you might have. And have we ever gotten into TikTok and Reels and all those type of things, YouTube Shorts, all those places too. The mistake that I see most people make, and that I think the trap that really gets easy to fall into, is that people think that they have to produce completely new content for each one of these platforms. And I recognize that I just told you that you can't repurpose your content across all the platforms, but that's not, in taken out of context, that's true. But you have to understand there's an art to repurposing your content. I'll put it that way. The smarter content marketing strategy here in 2022 is to create one high quality, highly relevant, really good piece of content for one platform, and then take that content and turn it into something that can be used on all the other platforms. So let me explain to you how I do this and how this works in practice. For me, I create one YouTube video per week, for the most part. Some weeks I do two, but for most weeks I do one YouTube video per week. Before I filmed this video, I wrote out a script. With a couple of small tweaks, I can take that script and I can repost that onto my website as a blog post. If you don't have a script or you use bullet points and you just talk through the bullet points when you're doing your video, then you can use a service like rev.com and they will transcribe your video into a script that you can use and post on your website in literally a matter of minutes. When I export this video to upload it to YouTube, you can also rip out the audio content from this video and then you can use that as the basis for a podcast. Now maybe you need to add an intro and an outro for your podcast, but that's the next step of the process. And then you can cut off the parts of the video that are not relevant for Facebook and you can re-upload this video into Facebook again with the long form content if you would like. I can do all that and then I can also post the links and schedule this to go out on Twitter. And then I can also shorten up some of the video clips to be reused with Instagram Reels, Facebook Shorts, I don't even know what those are called. I guess it's Reels, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. And then I can go through the long form content, the blog posts that I have, pull out some quotes that I really like, and I can repurpose those as quote cards on Instagram. The possibilities of what you can do with one piece of content really are endless. I didn't even really get into what you can do with Pinterest, but that's another great thing that you can do to drive traffic back to your blog. What's important for you to understand is that you do not need to be creating multiple different forms of content. You do not need to say, okay, this week we're going to talk about content marketing the way I'm doing in this video. Now I need to go and record a separate podcast episode for that. Now I need to go out and rewrite another blog post episode for that. Another blog post for that. You have all the information you need with the one pillar piece of content. You just need to repurpose the content that you already have. So if you're just starting out, my challenge to you would be to post one high quality, highly relevant, targeted piece of content per week that's going to help your target audience. And then all you really need to decide is what medium are you going to create that content in? Are you going to create it as a blog post? Are you going to do a video like I'm doing? Are you going to do a podcast? That's really the only choice. I find it easiest to start with video because it makes it really easy to convert that into an audio podcast and a blog post if that's what you want to do, and then you can cut up the video for your snippets, for reels, for all those type of things. And if you really want to take things up a notch, then take a look at all your old content. See what's resonating with people, see what content is really getting found in the search results and that you're getting a lot of results from. Look at your analytics for this, and then go back and redo some of those old blog posts, update some of those old blog posts, redo some of those old videos on YouTube, and that's where you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck because you already know what content is working. You just need to redo it, make it better, and repost it. When you start taking a systematic and intentional approach to content marketing for your business, you will be amazed at the results that you see. Like what I'm talking about here today, make sure you check out this other video that I did right here that talks more about how you can build and grow your online business. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Take care, folks.